It's Michael Popok, Legal AF, with an update. Remember that Jan 6 defendant who wore a fake orange beard and smoked a joint while he was inside of the Capitol, and also along the way tried to obstruct an official proceeding and got 3 years of jail time, who defended himself in front of a jury in the District of Columbia, calling the jury a kangaroo court, yelling at Judge McFadden, threatening to phone Judge McFadden's family in order to have him disqualified, phoning the mother of his probation officer, all in an effort effectively to give himself his own defense. That guy, Brandon Fellows, he's in the news again. He got out. He got out in May of this year after 3 years and being found in contempt and all the things I just described. In fact, I did a hot take on this 9 months ago. He's back like a terrible bad penny. Why? Because if you were watching the C-SPAN reporting of Dr. Fauci having to appear, speaking about kangaroo court, having to appear before the congressional subcommittee, you know, the one where Marjorie Taylor Greene refused to acknowledge that he was a doctor and said he should go to jail and all of that. And Anthony Fauci, Dr. Fauci, said that he's been the subject of violent attacks on his family and him because of people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. That subcommittee, right behind Fauci, was an acting out, mugging for the camera, making faces, Brandon Fellows, but without his orange beard. But we recognized him, and social media recognized him. And more importantly, the police that operate within the Capitol recognized him for good reason and bounced him from the contempt hearing. Now, I'm going to show you so that you know that I'm not making this up. I'm not usually this self-referential, but I have to be here. Let me show you a clip from Michael Popok, me, doing a hot take 9 months ago on Brandon Fellows, because you'll know who this guy is as soon as you listen to the first couple of minutes here. And then I'll come back and tell you what it means for the conditions of his release that he decided to basically, this isn't First Amendment rights, mug for the camera, and on the way out, say that Anthony Fauci should be in jail. Let's roll my clip now. This is Michael Popok. Not all Jan 6 insurrectionists, even those charged with obstruction of an official proceeding, are built alike. Take Brandon Fellows. Please take Brandon Fellows. Schenectady, New York, former grocery worker, decided from the get-go after capture that he would represent himself in front of Judge Trevor McFadden because, to quote him at a hearing in October, "I spent 2 weeks in the D.C. County Jail, Your Honor. I know all I need to know." And the judge says, "I would not do that, Mr. Fellows. I would not represent yourself. If you force me to, I'm going to let you, but I wouldn't do it." He did it, and by the time that October hearing was over, he already admitted to 3 different felonies while he was conducting the hearing, including harassing a judge and his family to try to disqualify them, considering whether to call Judge McFadden's family in order to get him disqualified. This was all admitted during the bond hearing. So that's in October. What happened there? The judge said, "You know what? I've heard enough, including you admitting other felonies and contempt of the court. I'm going to put you in pretrial detention." So for the act of busting through an already broken window in the Senate and sitting in a senator's chair, Jeff Merkley, a Democrat of Oregon, and smoking a joint, he got to spend the rest of his time sitting along with the other Jan 6 defendants, including all the violent ones like the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, because he couldn't keep his mouth shut. Fast forward to the trial that started last week. How do you think that went for Brandon Fellows, who decided again to represent himself? Let me just cut to the chase. Not well. The judge, after listening to Brandon Fellows' continued contempt of the government, continually telling the jury that he had nothing to be ashamed of, that Jan 6th was a beautiful day, that he was a martyr like Brett Kavanaugh, the Supreme Court justice, that the prosecutors were liars, that the court was a kangaroo court, pointing to Judge McFadden. Okay. That was the guy who decided, because he's too smart by half, to defend himself, attack the judge, phone the judge's family, or try to phone his probation officer's mother, all to get them disqualified, and attack the jury, tell them that they were in Nazi Germany on the way out to court. I mean, he should have been given release and not have to go to pre-trial detention, but he was so out of his mind during the arraignment and otherwise, and had committed other crimes in person in the courtroom. The judge had no choice but then to stick him in the DC jail until he went to trial. And then when he came out, he said, "Oh, Judge, I've been in the DC jail for several months. I'm ready to defend myself." The judge says, "I don't think that's a great idea." You can see he is chock full, Brandon Fellows, chock full of great ideas. So I sort of wanted to bring this back to your attention and we showed you the clips of him mugging for the camera. Now, what does it mean? It means he's got a big problem because he served his 3 years, yes, but you don't get to be disruptive again and disorderly again and refuse to leave a Congress again, especially when you were a Jan 6 insurrectionist that attacked Congress in the first place, that put you in jail. Note to this guy, aren't there other places, even other tourist spots that you can go, Brandon Fellows, than to show up in Congress? You know your way around the halls of Congress, and all that. Now, two little side notes here. One is the most major crime that this guy was charged with. He was also charged with disorderly conduct and refusing to leave an official building. But his main charge was obstruction of an official proceeding. Obstruction of an official proceeding, which is the highest count other than seditious conspiracy that the Department of Justice has been using. That's up for grabs right now. He could get his conviction reversed and vacated because the United States Supreme Court, and led by the MAGA United States Supreme Court, as we wait on pins and needles for them to issue their last orders, their last decisions, which they've already written, before they go on summer vacation, many of which are being paid for by right-wing MAGA and on boondoggles worth hundreds of thousands of dollars before the Supreme Court ends its term. One of the things we're waiting on is whether they're going to find that the Department of Justice overcharged their indictments of all these Jan 6 defendants and the several hundred that got charged, including Donald Trump, with obstruction of an official proceeding because of a misapplication of that law. Comes from a case arising out of a decision by Judge Nichols at the trial court level. We're waiting on that. If that were to happen, guys like Brandon Fellows, crazy orange beard guy who's busy, again, interfering with our democracy, could have that part of his record vacated, expunged. Now, I can't get the time back, but that's the reality. We got to follow these things. And thank God for the eyes and ears of the Meidas Mighty and social media that caught all of these things. And then we can bring it to me here on Legal AF at the intersection of law and politics, and I can have a little bit of a chuckle while I report on it. And when he gets caught again, the second element of my hot take is his conditions of release. As standard conditions of release, I assure you, he has to be a good boy. He has to properly report to his parole officer, and he can't, I'm sure, regularly attend sessions, even if they're public, in Congress. And he can't sit behind witnesses and make faces and then say things out loud. That is a crime. We'll have to see if Brandon Fellows is going to be charged with the crime of trespass, charged with the crime of resisting, charged with another crime of loitering, all up for grabs at this point. And if I'm his probation officer and I'm his original prosecuting Department of Justice, main justice attorney, I am opening a new investigation into Brandon Fellows. And I'm going to decide whether he has violated conditions of his release and therefore should be sent back to jail to finish his sentence or to be resentenced for new crimes. We'll continue to follow it. The only place we know where to do that, MeidasTouch Legal AF, right here on the MeidasTouch YouTube channel, and then on audio podcast platforms, all the major ones. If you like what we do at the intersection of law and politics, lawyers talking about things, we know what we're talking about, then you've come to the right place. Legal AF. Yes, Ben Meiselas and I named it 4 years ago for a reason, and now you know why, things like this. Join us Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on this YouTube channel for our full-length, fully curated podcast devoted to everything at the intersection of law and politics, civil and criminal, constitutional law, women's rights, reproductive rights, voting rights, anything relating to this United States Supreme Court, Donald Trump, Jan 6, you name it, we cover it. One place here on the MeidasTouch Network. If you like what I'm saying and doing, I'm Michael Popok. Look me up MS Popok on all things social media. And right here, this is where I do my work on my hot takes about every hour on the MeidasTouch network. And go over to YouTube, look for Michael Popok under contributors or playlists, and you'll find my entire body of work. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting. Heary, heary, Legal AF Law Breakdown is now in session. Go beyond the headlines and get a deep dive into the important legal concepts you need to know, and we discuss every day on Legal AF. Exclusive content you won't find anywhere else, all for the price of a couple of cups of coffee. Join us at patreon.com/legalaf. That's patreon.com/legalaf.